Before we get into the juicy details, let me set the scene for you. This isn't just another boring legal case buried in paperwork. This is Michael Jordan's race team going head-to-head with NASCAR itself. We're talking about a billionaire basketball legend and a championship-level driver challenging the entire system of stock car racing. And Denny Hamlin, he was the first witness to take the stand. The opening act, the guy who had to walk into that courtroom and basically tell NASCAR everything that's wrong with how they run their business. And here's where it gets interesting. This case isn't going to be decided by racing experts or business analysts. 6 random people from North Carolina are going to determine the future of NASCAR. 6 everyday folks who might not know a charter from a carburetor, so everything matters here. Not just the facts and figures, but how you present them, how you connect with those jurors, and whether you can keep them awake through hours of antitrust law discussion. Here's something that caught everyone off guard: this trial has become incredibly theatrical. We've all spent months analyzing numbers, looking at documents, trying to understand the business side of racing, but at the end of the day, this is a performance. Think about it, the plaintiffs made sure to introduce Michael Jordan to the court right away. You can say you're neutral all you want, but when Michael freaking Jordan walks into the room, something happens. That's star power, that's strategy. And Denny Hamlin, when he first took the stand, he got visibly emotional talking about his start in racing and his father's health. Was that calculated? Was it genuine? Does it even matter if it resonates with the jury? These are the questions everyone's asking. Even NASCAR came prepared for this theater. They brought in a Georgia lawyer with a thick Southern accent to deliver their opening statement. Why? Because they are in the South talking to Southern jurors. Now, let's get into the numbers, because Denny's testimony exposed some absolutely fantastic and fascinating financial details that we've never heard before. First up, Denny Hamlin makes around $14 million per year driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. Let that sink in. $14 million. That puts him among the highest paid drivers in NASCAR, and honestly, it's pretty comparable to what some Formula One stars make. He's not quite at the Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen level, those guys are in a different stratosphere, but he's right there with drivers like Lando Norris, George Russell, and Carlos Sainz in terms of base salary. $14 million is serious money. Here's another number that turned heads. 23XI Racing pays Joe Gibbs Racing $8 million every single year for their technical alliance. That breaks down to roughly $2.6 million per full-time car. Essentially, they're renting information, expertise, and technology from one of the top teams in the sport. You can go that route, or you can do what Legacy Motor Club is trying to do. Hire a bunch of engineers, build your own database from scratch, and slowly develop your own program. It's like the difference between renting a nice apartment in a good neighborhood versus saving up to buy your own house. Both approaches work, they're just completely different philosophies, and both are expensive. Speaking of expensive, 23XI's brand new state-of-the-art race shop, $35 million, and apparently it went over budget. So, Denny still owes Michael Jordan some money for it. So after Denny gave his initial testimony, NASCAR's legal team got their turn, and they came out swinging. For multiple hours, they cross-examined Hamlin, and their strategy became pretty clear pretty fast. Their main argument: if the system is so unfair, so anti-competitive, so terrible for race teams, then why did 23XI Racing buy a charter not once, not twice, but 3 times? Teams got those charters for free back in 2016, and now they're worth over $45 million each. So if the deal is so bad, why do teams keep investing in it? Now the court has already called out part of that argument. Yeah, teams didn't pay cash for those original charters in 2016, but they had to make commitments to NASCAR. There were definitely strings attached, so saying they got them for free is a bit misleading. But NASCAR wasn't done. Their next strategy was to paint Denny Hamlin as unreliable. As someone who says different things depending on who he's talking to, they pulled up multiple examples of Hamlin praising NASCAR in public, praising the next-gen car, even saying it was a net positive for our sport. And how did Denny respond? He basically said, look, if I criticize NASCAR publicly, they get mad at me. Sometimes I have to promote the sport whether I believe it or not. They also showed messages where Denny told his co-owners, Curtis Polk and Michael Jordan, that he was optimistic about their financial goals. His response? I was being a cheerleader. If Michael says this is stupid and I'm done, then I'm done. So NASCAR is trying to paint him as a politician who flip-flops depending on the audience. Someone you can't fully trust. NASCAR also hammered Denny on spending decisions. If the system is so broken, why did 2311 spend all this money on charters? Why drop $35 million on a new building? Hamlin's answer was straightforward. They needed that building to be attractive to sponsors, and this is where things got really interesting because Denny kept bringing up how teams often have to battle NASCAR itself for sponsorship money. Is it illegal for NASCAR to compete with teams for sponsors? Not necessarily, but it shows you the dynamic here. This isn't like the NFL, where the commissioner and the 32 owners are usually working together to protect the league. NASCAR is a family-owned business, and the race teams are basically independent contractors. They're not partners, they're often adversaries. Now, we get to the best parts. The moments where Denny Hamlin absolutely destroyed NASCAR's arguments with perfect responses. NASCAR's attorney brought up Riley Herbst's driver contract, questioning why it's okay for 2311 to pay drivers only 22% of total revenue and restrict them from competing in other events. If those practices are anti-competitive when NASCAR does them, why is it okay when race teams do them? Denny's response? 4 words. We're not a monopoly like you. Boom. Mic drop, and he's absolutely right. A driver can take their talents to any one of over a dozen Cup Series teams, not to mention Xfinity and Truck Series teams. If you're a talented driver, you have options. Multiple teams are competing for your services, but if you're a race team that wants to compete in premier stock car racing, NASCAR is your only option. That's the market, that's the monopoly. There is no alternative. That is the entire difference, and Denny nailed it in one sentence. But wait, there's more. NASCAR's attorney tried to press Hamlin on his salary again, saying most drivers don't make $14 million a year. Denny's response? Those drivers don't win the number of races I do. I mean, come on. At what point do we just crown Denny Hamlin the king of one-liners? Actions detrimental, podcast listeners know his motto, I beat your favorite driver. This guy doesn't hold back, and honestly, in a courtroom where presentation matters, that confidence might play well with a jury. Here's what we need to remember as this trial continues. Denny Hamlin was on the stand for over 3 hours. Multiple reporters noted that he came across as angry, fiery, and snippy at times. The question is, was that an intentional strategy or just Denny being Denny? How will the jury respond to that energy? Will they connect with his frustration and see him as someone fighting against an unfair system? Or will they see him as a millionaire complaining about not making enough money? That's impossible to predict right now. This trial is just getting started. More witnesses are coming. More numbers will be revealed. More drama is guaranteed. Denny Hamlin set the tone with his testimony, showing that this case is about more than just legal arguments. It's about people, emotions, and the future of NASCAR itself. So what do you think? Did Denny help or hurt his case on the stand? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, smash that like button and subscribe because this trial is far from over, and we'll be covering all the major developments as they happen.